week 24 of 50. Old Man Goes to Vegas, part 2. So I woke up at my friend's house in Las Vegas on Friday the 13th. I woke up early. And when I looked at my phone and saw that it was, in fact, Friday the 13th, I liked it. Why? Because I go into poker sessions feeling a sense of doom. I just do. That's poker PTSD. It's recency bias. I just feel like shit's going to go wrong. Well, maybe on Friday the 13th, it'll be the opposite of that. Where sunrunners are probably spooked on Friday the 13th. Us glacier walkers think, hey, maybe we got a shot. And I'll be heading to the Strip, to the Horseshoe in particular, for day 2 of the 2025 World Series of Poker Seniors High Roller. And of course, my first day was interesting. I got off to a hot start. I got there for the first hand. I never missed a hand. It was shorthanded at the beginning. And I was running over the table and making some hands. And I built up a top, 5 chip stack pretty early. And then the last level was rough. I think it was kind of a turning point for me on day 1 when I had the most chips at the table and I was about to have fuck you money, fuck you tournament chips at least, when I got it all in with kings against queen jack suited preflop. If I win this pot, now I can get egregious with my shit. I mean, I was egregious with my shit, but I was like a surgeon. I was picking my spots very, very well. Well, if I win this one, I can just like auto 3-bet huge for a while. And that's something I've always thought of. If you get an enormous chip lead, you can just apply so much pressure that you know it can't hurt you if someone finally wakes up with a hand and maybe they call, and maybe you beat them. But anyways, yeah, the last level on day 1 was very frustrating. I got it in with 8s against jacks. I thought it was a pretty standard spot, and obviously didn't win that one, but it was a guy who was ready to jam, and I think he had 20 big blinds, and I think people are jamming 20 big blinds with much worse than 8s. And then I had 7s where I had to call against a guy who was going to play face up post flop, and then he bet. You're hoping to flop a set, or you're hoping he just checks the flop with no ace or king out there. Then you know exactly what he has. And it just was a very frustrating last session. So I don't have a ton of chips, but I have enough chips. And this is the funny thing about tournaments. If someone else is playing and they tell you, oh, I have 30, 40, 50 big blinds, 20 big blinds, 15 big blinds, you say, that's plenty. That's plenty. You're doing fine. If it's you and you had 200 all day, it's no. This is panic time. Well, anyways, so after I bagged, I wasn't feeling that great about it, but then I had some fun with some friends, and up on Friday the 13th, and I'm really feeling the pressure. I reviewed my notes from day 1. I went through and cleaned them up a little bit just to think about the hands I played, and I had some coffee, and I worked on some other stuff, and I was texting with my good friend, Dr. David Neymark, a psychiatrist, and he said, just have fun. Poker doesn't have to be as hard as it's been, and this won't make or break you. It feels like it will, but he's right, it won't. But it feels like it will, because I am on stake, and I've been on a downswing for over a year. I haven't been putting in a ton of volume, but still just running wretched when I get in the big spots. Aside from one session with Pink where I ran hot and kept flopping top pair and it was always good. But it helped to have that bro therapy, just texting him. And then, and I just wrote in my notes, I was getting ready for the day. I said, okay, go shower and then go be a cockroach. And this is something I've talked about over the years in this podcast. Cockroaches are hard to kill. They just keep coming back. And that's kind of me in the human form. And then I wrote, if you get chips again, step on their throats. So that's the best feeling in a poker tournament, is having chips and just being a fucking relentless bully. I don't believe in bullying in real life. Fuck that shit. In poker, sure. I think it was 2009. I had a bunch of chips on the main event bubble, and I was just winning every single hand. And it was just so fun for an hour or two. And then the money hits, and then now you need to tighten up because they're going to send it in on you. Anyways, I showered, got dressed, got an Uber, and got to the Horseshoe. And I didn't know where to go. I played in the Paris the day before. I don't really know the landscape of the Paris/Horseshoe casinos, which are connected. But I did find my table for the first hand of day 2. And I guess I don't take pride in much. I don't know if saying I'm proud is the right way to say it, but I like that I never missed one hand of this tournament while I was still in. Let me take a sip of coffee and tell you about day 2. Start on a level 11, that's 1K, 2,500. And I'm going to tell you my table. I just did this before, after we ripped open our bags and stacked up our chips. In the one seat is Danny Fuse, someone I go way back with. Just a good kindred spirit from the gambling world. I've seen him high and low, and he's seen the same from me, and he's got plenty of chips. And then my name is Dragon Man. I'm in the 2 seat, and then on my left is Mr. Screenshot, just a really old guy who didn't know how to do a screenshot, so he asked me. I was like the young old guy. And then the next guy, I think his name is Theo Jorgensen. Pretty sure he's a tournament pro. He really gave off the vibe that he knew what he was doing. And then cool shirt man, just some guy with some, clever shirt with his wife, having fun out in Vegas. An Indian guy. That's what it's about, man. Just have fun. And then, and the last seat was the potty mouth. And that's just a lady who had, you wouldn't expect it by looking at her, but she just had a potty mouth. Okay, well, I start off as the big blind, and these little tiny things you think about when you've played and poker and gambled as much as I have. You just think about, so I'm going to be the big blind on the first hand. It's not a big deal, but if it happens too often, it grates on you. And anyways, I had to fold. Danny 3-bet the potty mouth, and I folded. And I think he showed ace king or ace queen. And then I'm in the small blind, and it folds to me, and I'm going to steal. Against Mr. Screenshot, he just seems like he's going to fold. I had the Israeli Ron queen deuce, and I raised it up from the small blind, and he folded. And winning the blinds in tournaments feels great. In cash, it feels like nothing. It feels like it wasn't even a hand. But a tournament, because of the ante and just because of the nature of the game, any pot you win feels good, especially if you just steal with queen deuce offsuit. Okay, so now I'm on the button, and potty mouth limps, and I have ace 4 offsuit. I decided to just over limp. I really want to get in pots and play post flop where I have a significant edge, but Theo in the big blind squeezes and she jams, so I fold. He had 6s, she had queen jack, and he held. So she's gone. And then I raise in the cutoff with ace 4 suited, and they all fold. And then it's my big blind. Again, I have to fold, and the table breaks. So I played my big blind twice, and then the table broke. And so I'm not going to give you lineups because the tables just change too much, especially on day 2. The lineup changes too much. So I go to my new table and I'm under the gun. Okay, so you're just thinking first hand I was big blind, last hand I was big blind of my first table. Come here, I'll be big blind in my second hand. It's just, it probably sounds stupid, but it's real, and that's why I'm telling you about it. You just think about all these little things, and that's recency and confirmation bias at its finest, because when you're not the big blind every time you sit down, you never think about it, which is fucking great. But anyways, I folded my first 3 hands under the gun, big blind, small blind, and then I raised on the button with queen jack suited and someone jammed. Okay, fold. And the guy on my right, I will tell you about him, he kind of looks like Barry Woods, except he's smiling. He's got white hair. I know he's from LA, and he's got a Morkie, a white Morkie. I think her name's Zoe, and she's older, and she snores on his lap, and it doesn't bother me at all. I love Morkies, and this guy's just really cool. And yeah, anyways, he raises from the small blind, and I don't defend against him in the big blind with 6-4 offsuit because he is a very, very tight / solid player. So we're going to update the stack. I have 110K. That is 44 big blinds. Is it? Let me see what we started at. 2,500. Okay. Yeah, that is 44 big blinds. So when you're a cash game player, and when you're a tournament player, you know that's plenty. But when you're a cash game player, sorry about that. My sound guy was supposed to turn that off, but he relapsed last night. I haven't seen him. So 44 bigs feels like, it doesn't feel like a lot, but it is a lot, kind of. But it's probably below average. So then I folded 6-4 offsuit in the big blind to the small blinds open, and then I was 6-4 offsuit in the small blind, and I had a tight player on my left, tight player on my right, tight player on my left, and I raised it up and took it. Okay. And then I called a pretty tight players open on the button with king queen suited. I just, with 40 some big blinds, I just didn't think I had to 3-bet this hand before the flop. And it wasn't someone who's opening a lot, or even someone I thought would be opening wide. Just someone opening pretty early position. I decided just call with king queen of hearts on the button, and one of the blinds called, and it came 9-6-5 with 1 heart, and they checked at me, and I'm always going to bet here. I bet, and the guy in the blind folded, and there wasn't a guy in a blindfold, but there was a guy in a blind who folded. And then the pre-flop raise are just kind of like a businessman check raise. It's kind of an insane flop to check raise if you're a tight player. But he probably just flopped a set of 9s, so whatever, I just folded. And then I raised with ace-3 of clubs, got jammed on, folded again, and then I win 1 pot against the businessman who limped in, and I thought it was a pretty big hand. So I just limped queen 9 of spades, and it came 6-7-8 with 2 spades. And on day 1, I flopped so many of these combo draws. I don't know that I hit any of them, but I ran hot in other ways. Anyways, he bets, and I don't think I have any fold equity. And he just seems like I have a hand he's not folding. And so I call with queen 9 of spades on 6-7-8, 2 spades. And the turn is an offsuit queen, and he checks. I just check back here. And the river is a brick, and he checks, and I bet, and he folds. So I think what happens, he probably just limped in with ace-king of spades. So my draw wasn't as big as I thought it was. Perhaps. I never saw his hand, but it's just a weird hand where, the alarm bells go off because some guy limps in instead of raising. And then they bet pretty big on the flop, 6, 7, 8, 2 spades. So you just call with the queen, 9 of spades because you don't think they're folding. It's a cash game. I mean, it's not a cash game. Cash game you can raise here because you have more maneuverability, more chips. Tournament, you just call. You hit the queen. It's a bluff catcher. You just check back. You don't want to get jammed on. If your queen is good, it's not getting 2 streets, all that fun stuff. And then there is a brick. He checks again. Okay, the queen's good. And you just bet it hoping he has jacks, but he folds quickly, which tells you he probably had a flush draw and probably almost certainly a better one. I don't know. I was unsettled at this table. I was unsettled on this morning. I don't sleep a lot in general. I especially wasn't sleeping very much in Vegas. And I was feeling a lot of pressure to make a run in this thing. When nothing's been going your way in poker, well, one tournament can erase that, can it? And I know this is a good spot. I mean, it's a tournament, so it's a lottery, but it's a good spot. A seniors event is a great spot. It's like playing poker with a bunch of old guys. I mean, it is that. But a cash game with a bunch of old guys is a great game. A tournament with a bunch of old guys is a great tournament. So I wasn't feeling too settled at this new table. And there's this guy in the 9-seat, Larry, who was talking the entire time. And he was very interesting. He had very, very much had an old school gambler vibe. He said his friend owned the Dodgers, and he just talked the entire time. And he was really going after this European guy across the table who I guess was super action. And he's calling him gunslinger. But he's also like threatening him a little bit, like discreetly. And he's an older guy. And it was just weird energy at the table. He's just talking the whole time. He was being cool to me, but I'm just unsettled at this table. Just maybe, drank too much coffee, not enough sleep, whatever else. But then I started talking to the guy on my right and to Larry. And I found this in this tournament. Every time I started to feel out of sorts, uncomfortable, if I just started talking, I felt better. And that should be standard. That's what therapy is. It's talking. That's why I have this podcast. I have to keep myself in line. I have to vent my shit out every week. And you talk and you feel better. And it works at the poker table as well. I need another sip of this coffee. We'll continue. So Larry opens. I call with ace, 9 of spades on the button. And the Wolverine calls from the big blind. And that's, I want to say like a younger black dude. So the youngest he can be is 50. But the guy looks good. And he's wearing a Michigan jacket or shirt. So they're the Wolverines. So he calls. 3 ways to the flop to go. I have ace, 9 of spades. It comes king, 7, deuce with 1 spade. They both check. I always bet here. Why? Because, well, the preflop raiser probably doesn't have a king, and the other guy probably doesn't have a king, and I can find out, and I'm just going to win the spot so often by betting here and betting again if I need to. Well, the Wolverine calls, and the preflop raiser, Larry, folds. Okay, well, I'm looking at the Wolverine stack, and neither of us are deep, obviously, obviously I'm not deep, but I have them covered. And the turn comes the 10 of spades. So I pick up the nut flush draw. I've been missing flopped nut flush draws and straight draws all tournament. And, that means 2 cards to come when you flop them. This is a turn 1. I don't have much faith that I'm going to hit a flush here. But if I look at the hand, Larry opened. I called the button. This guy called from the big blind. King, 7, deuce with 1 spade. Larry, they checked to me. I bet he probably is sending it in, or at least raising with a good hand here, Wolverine. I think this is very indicative of a 7, his call. And then Larry folds and then turns a 10 of spades. And now he checks. And so I think he has a 7, and I don't think he can call a jam. So I send it in, and he doesn't take too long to fold. And that felt good. It feels good. You know, I was risking a chunk of my chips, but it was very calculated. And that's what I was saying about if you have a ton, it doesn't have to be that calculated. It can just be, I hope you don't have a stack offhand. This is, I'm almost certain you don't have a stack offhand. And it feels good. It feels good to send it in with fucking a semi-bluff on the turn. And it's not, you know, it's not a punt. It's very logical given all the variables, and it works. Okay. And I get in there and I'm whiffing, but I'm alive and I'm talking. I'm talking to Morky Man. I'm talking to Larry. I'm talking to others. I'm talking to the guy on my left. Larry said that he was a commentator for WSOP, and I said, yeah, I do some of that myself. And the guy on my left said, where? I said, Hustler Casino Live, and you know, just talking. And then I stack Wolverine. He gets nubbed down, and I look down at Ace King on the button. I open. He jams his nub. I call. He has Ace 9. And I think this is the second time I got one of those auto stack to short stack. I think both times I had Ace King and they had Ace, maybe 9 both times. I think HGH Man on day 1 and now Wolverine. And, you know, these aren't big pots, but they really help when you add 10 blinds to your stack or whatever he had. And so in his seat, well, you know, he leaves, Wolverine, who's cool. And then someone sits down, and it's John Hennigan. I don't know what his name is. World something. Johnny World? I know he's a mixed game and limit legend. I remember Sean Snyder said he was the best at everything. And I've played with him in some tournaments or maybe cash and, you know, just like at Commerce or something. And he just seems like a cool guy. He sits down and everyone goes, oh my God. But he just bought in. So he has, you know, 12 big blinds. He just spent $5K for 50 in chips, and that's 12 big blinds. And he said, don't worry, I won't be here long. And he goes all in dark, his first hand. And Larry 3-bet, and John had 10-5 offsuit against ace queen and busted and tapped the table and was gone. It was just interesting, like how much 5K means to me right now compared to how much it means to this guy. He just probably looked at it as a calculated thing, like I either double up and I have some chips to play with in this great tournament, or I don't and I go play, you know, the low ball fucking whatever. So I raise with 8-4 offsuit because I've been folding for a while. And one of the blinds calls, and the flop comes good. Ace, queen, deuce. Big blind checks. The big blind that took John's seat is, the fuck's his name? Is Ernie. Ernie, who played on Hustler Casino Live a bunch. He doesn't recognize me yet at this point. Okay, so I raise with 8-4 offsuit. He defends, ace, queen, deuce. He checks. I bet. He calls. The turn is nothing, like a 7. He checks. I bet again. I take it. And so now I'm playing a lot like I did, or more like I did on day 1, where just manufacture, and run hot in weird ways. I'm not only going to talk about running bad in weird ways, like it's always your big blind every time you know, start a day or a game break, your table breaks, you go to another table. I'm not going to only talk about that. I'll talk about the run good that people don't acknowledge. And that's where you just get these bluffs through over and over. And this hand felt particularly good. So the gunslinger is this Euro at the other end of the table. He's got all the chips. And, you know, he's the lag. I guess that's what Larry was saying. And I open in you know, middle position with king jack, and he defends from the big blind. And the flop comes ace 9-3 and rainbow, and he checks, and I bet, and he check raises me. I have king jack. So I just, I had that one, shove against Wolverine that felt good. The 8-4 felt, just like pretty, easy poker. And now here's a tougher spot because I open King Jack, it comes Ace 9-3. The big blind check raises, just shouldn't have a lot to check raise with. And I see this when I commentate the GTO guys like Brown Balla and King Henry. If they get check raised as pre-flop raiser on an Ace 9-3 flop, they never fold. And I'm inclined to never fold too, but I just saying even like these, fucking guys who the super tryhards don't either. And so I call Ace 9-3. We're a couple hours from the money at least. And you probably don't need to be getting too involved with the chip leader at your table. But also fuck this guy. You're not raising me on Ace 9-3. You want to float, but you're not raising me. And, King Jack. So I call his check raise and the turn's an 8 and he checks and I just toss out a green chip, which is 25K. And he starts staring me down and I don't know. I'm just relaxed. I'm just stretching, I just feel totally at peace with the world, and he folds. So I don't know. Maybe he had a 9. I think that's what these fucking guys do. The tryhards love to check raise with middle pair, and have fun with that. So that one felt good. It would have really sucked if he called or jammed or whatever. But this is how you make a run in a tournament. This is how you get to the cash without ever being all in. You just take every fucking spot you can. And then I'm in there with 8-7 of diamonds and I whiff. So what? I was in there. Give myself a chance to, flop something big, win a nice one. Ace 10, offsuit, raise, and have to fold to, I got to fold to the guy on my left who, is a nice guy, but a nit. And then I call a raise with Ace Jack of diamonds. It comes Queen Jack 8, and that person checks. I check. The turn's a 10, and I'm out of position. I check, and he bets, and of course he's gonna bet here to represent Ace King, and doesn't matter. I call, and then he just gives up on the river, so I win one with third pair on a 4-card straight board, and then I get pocket kings. I win a small one. And then I have a really interesting hand. I want to take a sip of coffee before I tell you about it. So I said what's up to Ernie. People didn't recognize me when I was wearing a Dodgers hat like I used to when I was a grinder way back in the day, 20 years ago. Anyways, now we've talked, and I open Ace-7 of hearts, and he 3-bets in position. Does Ernie. I call. The flop comes Jack-9 deuce all hearts. I'm on my Mariano shit, aren't I? So I flopped a nut flush. I check. He bets. What do you do here on Jack-9 deuce all hearts with Ace-7 of hearts against a 3-bet pre-flop? I went for the check raise. I thought, this we played fucking huge all night. He knows that I'm very, very, very bluffy and creative, if you will, and he just snap folded. So he probably had nothing, and that's one of those ones where, I don't know. I think it's right to check raise flop. I don't think in a tournament he's gonna barrel off, but maybe he could turn top pair. Maybe he has King Queen or something like that. I don't know. But we go on break and I have 323,000 and feeling better about things. Just take a piss, get a Diet Pepsi, come back. And now we start level 13, which is 2K, 4K. So yeah, we got 81 bigs. And this feels much better. And there's another guy that I know is legendary in the tournament world, John Morgan. He's at my table. He's funny. I want to say old guys, but everyone at the table is an old guy, including me. I just don't feel like it inside. I still feel very immature. And I don't know. But this guy had a rough go of it, John Morgan. So he sends in 20K dark under the gun. So that's 5 big blinds. He sends it in dark. That's his last 20K. And I have ace-5 offsuit in the cutoff. So I make it 36K. And now the guy on the button, nice guy, I forgot where he's from, maybe Seattle, but he knew everyone from LA, goes all in for 70K. And it folds back around to me. Well, I have to call. I mean, I just have to call because it's 34 to win 130 or something. And I have ace-5 offsuit. I don't love it. And we turn over our hands, and John Morgan had 6-5 offsuit, dark. And this guy had ace-queen suited, and I have ace-5 offsuit. So I'm in bad shape, but the board runs out such that we chop, me and the guy with ace-queen. And I can't tell you how lucky I felt. I feel like this hand's pretty standard. I don't know if it is or not, but I feel like it is. But I felt like, the play of it. I felt so lucky. I felt guilty for how good I ran in this one to not lose a big chunk of my stack. And that's something else that comes with spending too much time in the abyss, too much time on the wrong side of variance. When you do get lucky, and all I did was chop up that 20K with him, but I was fucked pre-flop. Pretty fucked. When you do, you feel guilty when you run hot. Like, I remember for a while, if I flopped a set, I would just feel gross because I'm just so used to running into it. And I hate these fuckers that always have sets. So something I'm going to try and work on is if I'm going to run good, if I'm going to be lucky, let it happen. It's been so long the other way. In poker, I've been lucky in many other ways in life. But in poker, I've just been unlucky for so long. I need to fully embrace it if I'm going to be lucky. And it's not even that fucking lucky. Ace-5 offsuit, it's a ace-5 offsuit against ace-queen chopping. It just felt like it in the moment. Okay. So then I get in there and I whiff. And then I'm in the small, but folds me in the small blind. I have 5-4 suited. I raise against the guy who had the ace-queen, and he's a tighter player, so that's why I'm raising in the small blind. And honestly, I didn't play blind versus blind very well in this tournament. That's my biggest takeaway. Just doesn't come up in cash. Someone always opens because everyone's got fucking heart in cash. But it came up a ton in this tournament, and I didn't play it that well. I raised here with 5-4 suited, which I like against this guy because he's tighter and he can fold. But he called, and I flopped well. 7-5-4. I checked. His stack wasn't very big. I was hoping to get him to have something that he can't fold, and I check raise and we get it in. But he foiled my plan by checking back. The turn was an ace, and I min bet, and I just want to make it look like I knew this guy was a decent player or a good player, and he would know I'm always going to bluff this card. So he raised, and I knew he was bluffing, but I just sent it in because the board was, the board was too wet. It was 7-5-4 ace. So if he has, a 6, deuce, or 3, he's got a straight draw or an 8. And he has a nub stack. But it's another, example of running good. And then I opened ace-jack, and the 2 blinds defended, and it came 10-8-6, and they check. I just check back, and the turn's nothing, and they bet, and I fold. And then Morky Man opens. He's been very, very tight. And I just fold 8-7 suited, and he had 10s. And then I have an interesting hand here, 10-9 offsuit. I open, and it's 3 ways. The blind's called, and it comes 8-3-3, and I bet. and the gunslinger calls after the other guy folds, and the turn's a 7. I bet again with 10-9. And, these are, I don't know if I'd be going for 3 streets with an overpair in a tournament against a guy who could easily have flopped trips, but whatever. It's just, he doesn't know me. I don't know him. I don't know. I think maybe checking the turn is better. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm open-ended. I bet, and I could have a 3 as well, so it's fine, I guess. But I bet the 8-3-3, only he called, turn 7, I bet again. And then I rivered to 10, and he checked, and I don't know. I just decided to check. Like, I'll be a pussy here. This is a tournament. I can't afford to lose a bunch of chips. And he just had ace high. So he kind of owned me in this hand. The gunslinger did. I owned him in that other one, but he owned me here by calling me down with ace high. And, he's probably going to fold on the river, I think. But I just felt like I hate when someone owns me. There was a stretch where no one would ever own me. I'd always own them. But the older I get, the more I do outside of poker, I get owned sometimes. And I felt like he owned me by calling me down with ace high. And yeah, I don't know. I don't like that. So I call a 3x open with Jack 10 suited just because it's the kind of hand that can beat a 3x hand, and I flop nothing. And then it folded me in the small blind again. I think I like this play as well. So I said I didn't like my blind versus blind play, but up to this point, it's fine. I looked down at 2 5s, and my opponent has 10 bigs. So what's that? 40 some, I guess we're 40, maybe he has 43,000 or something. And 2 5s in the small blind, I think that's a jam. I don't have a chart. I don't look at that shit. But if I had to guess, that's a jam. And he just had pocket 10s. And he called and he won. And it was just a little chunk away from my stack. And that's unlucky. Not that 5s loses to 10s, but just, I think that's an automatic jam. And I think my ace 5 offsuit was automatic min-raise call. So, now the gunslinger calls me on a turn when I have a flush draw, and then I hit the flush on the river. It's the ace of hearts, and I make a flush. I made a backdoor flush. Like, no one bet the flop. I turned the flush draw. I bet it. He called. The river's the ace of hearts. I bet, and he snap fold. And I said, I was just thinking to myself, does this guy have a fucking good read on me? Is this guy owning my face? How is he calling the turn? I mean, I guess maybe he could have just had a straight draw. And maybe that's probably what happened. When you think someone's like playing really well, usually they're not. But I don't know. He opens to 11K. So yeah, the big blind is 4K. And I'm going to fold. I'm on the button with King 10 offsuit. He opens under the gun. I'm going to fold. First of all, I don't love this hand. I know he's playing a bunch of hands, but just something about this seems strong. Just something about his open seems strong. And he's across the table. So these aren't like laser reads. When I have laser reads, the person's always very close to me because I can just pick up on everything. But across the table, it just seems like he's strong. I'm going to fold the King 10 offsuit to this open. I'm not ashamed to say it. I want to preserve my stack, get in the money, and then try and make a run. Well, 2 people call in front of me. Well, now I cannot fold King 10 offsuit on the button for less than 3 big blinds. So I call, and Larry calls out of the blind. And so we got 5-way action. We have maybe 58K in there. And the flop comes down Jack 10-10 with 2 hearts. And they all check to me. I flop trips. I toss out the 25K chip, the light green chip. Just as I did when I was bluffing, but no one saw the bluff, whatever. It's just an easy way to bet here. I flop trips, and I'm not giving free cards. I guess I could, but I think I've been active enough to bet, and if someone else gets in there, try and stack them or double up. And Larry folds, and the gunslinger calls, and the other 2 fold. And I don't love it. Just something about the whole hand has felt icky. And sometimes this is just in your head. Maybe you're feeling icky because this guy, you felt like he soul read you when he called down with ace high. Maybe he just always calls down with ace high. And then when he called the turn and you had a flush draw and then you made your flush and the ace got there, he snap folded. Well, maybe he just had a straight draw. But I don't know, I felt icky in this one when he opened. I was going to fold king 10 offsuit, but two people call in front of me. I got to call on the button. And then we're 5 ways. I bet about half pot. He calls. The turn is an offsuit 5. He checks. I check. I'm checking here. I want him to maybe bluff the river or check call the river. I'm not going for 3 streets here. I don't know if that's weak or what. The river is a total break, an offsuit deuce. And now he bets, I think there's about 110 in there. He bets 90K. And in my poker mind, well, you bet flop, check back turn, you have to call river, obviously. You're under-repped. You induce this. But as I'm calling, I say, you have jacks? And he has jacks. So he flopped jacks full. And I think if I'm playing my A+ game, which you're allowed to do in tournaments, you're not allowed to do that in cash. You do that in cash, fuck, you're fucked. You can't play your A+ game in cash. Where? I can't think of one place you can play your A+ game in cash. Tournament, go ahead. If I'm playing my A+ game, I think I fold. I think the size of that 90 into 110 is just like in a tournament, a few hours before the money. I think he has exactly pocket jacks always. And that's what, like, I called quickly because I knew when I checked back the turn, I have to call, river. Obviously, if, probably bet it if he checks, but flop trips against the boat. And I said, you have jacks, and he turned for jacks. And so that one stung. I lost how much in that hand? I lost 115, I lost like 126. And I opened 10-9, now I'm below average chips. I opened 10-9 offsuit and 2 people jam behind me, and there's 34. We have 34 people that need to bust before we get to the money. I really want to make it to the money. I do. So I fold king 10 offsuit under the gun. Fuck king 10 offsuit. Flop trips with that hand, and I was drawing to the case 10. But anyways, it's just, we're now at the point of the tournament where if you have, 25, 30 bigs, you cannot be a lag. And I hate playing poker when I can't be a lag. So, whatever. I did get in there with jack 9 of clubs and I flopped the flush. I missed so many flush draws. Flopped combo draws. I made one flush where I turned the flush draw and I flopped a few flushes. I flopped the nut flush against Ernie, and I flopped the nut flush against this other guy, and I got paid on 3 streets. Check call. He went check call, check call, check call. It was, beautiful flop. Ace, king, queen. And I had jack 9 of clubs, and it was all clubs. And so now I'm back to average chips, which I don't know if real tournament players look at or care about, but us fucking guys who play one tournament a year, we care. We don't want to be below average. Who wants to be below average? You want to be above average. We're achievers. So they show with the averages. I don't know if real tournament players care about that. I would have to ask one. Luckily, I don't know any. Just kidding. Tom Middleton, tournament player, I'll ask him. And our table is about to break. and it's the last hand before it breaks, and I open queen 10. I'm feeling better after making that flush. And Larry calls from the big blind. And it comes jack, jack, 9. He checks. I bet he check raises. When he check raises, I know with a high level of certainty he has a 9. What's the best way to proceed? Just call. Just tell. I'm a storyteller. You hear it in this podcast, especially if you're a paid member and you get the lead ups. You hear it when I commentate. You hear it at the table. I'm not going to 3-bet the jack, jack, 9 because that doesn't represent a lot, does it? Whereas if I call and, I think he has a 9. If I call, now I suddenly have a bunch of hands in my range that beat a 9. And so I call, and the turn's an ace. I'm open-ended, by the way. I could actually just, hit a 8, 10, queen or king. But turns an ace, and he checks, and now I bet, and he tanks and folds. And he says, you have a jack? And I lied to him. I said, yeah, I had queen jack. I didn't know. I was worried you had king jack. Just, dumb shit you do at the poker table. I had queen 10. I wasn't worried about shit. I was worried that I wasn't going to tell a good story. That's the only thing I was worried about. I knew you had a 9. Check raising someone like me, and that's not like a brag. I never fold. I'm not saying like, but you check raise someone like me on jack, jack, 9, have fucking fun, and do it with a 9, have a blast. There should be no check raise there. Unless you have a jack. Then you should, because I'm never going to think you have a jack. So it was nice to get him on that last one. And I go to a new table. It's table 666 on Friday the 13th. Give me a break. I know Irie Guy was at this table before he went the way of the felt. And I'm in seat 1. Okay, well, there's not a lot of room there. And I try and slide my chair in, and there's these wires with electrical tape over them in front of me. So my chair, if I want to scoot into the table, my chair, I have to lift it over these wires. And at that point, I'll be, tucked way up against the rail, like a kid in a high chair. And so it's just an uncomfortable seat. And I don't really have any complaints with anything at the World Series of Poker. The app is really easy to use, and, no complaints. Just this, it's just, the luck of the draw. Like this, they had to have this wire going across. They have to have this tape. You just can't get your chair. And the dealers were losing their minds too. Every time they tried to, sit down there, what the hell? Like, they're like shaking everything. And so anyways, also, I should have had the table square up because the 4-seat, it's only 8-handed, and the 4-seat is in the normal 4-seat spot, which means the other side of the table, there was a overweight French guy in the 5-seat, and he was kind of just like sprawled out, and he was a pro, and I should have just said, like, can you square up the table? But you sit down at a new table, you don't want to ruffle feathers. Anyways, I have Chip Jet on my direct left. What does that mean? It means I have an old school tournament pro on my direct left. I have no idea how he plays. I call with queen 9 suited. First hand, don't flop anything, fold. And I'm really trying to stay focused. It's just a lot of hours. I don't play sober poker. So I played 10 hours of sober poker the day before, and now, I've played like 4 on this day, and you got to try and stay focused. And we're 26 people away from the money. And I open with king 10 offsuit, and I have some chips now, and if I have any chips, I'm always going to get in there. And I get 2 calls. It comes to ace 7, and I bet small, and the masked man calls. Older guy wearing a mask. He looks like a nit, but he's the opposite of a nit. He's in there a bunch. He bluffs. Most of his bluffs are small, and mostly he just calls over and over and over and over. And so ace 7, no flush draw. After I bet, he called. I just shut it down with king 10. And the turn came a 7, check, check. The river's nothing, check, check. And he had pocket jacks. So he just called me with pocket jacks there. And I have a sense that people are not trying to blow up pots as we are, 25 now away from the money. And So I decided, okay, I wrote in my notes, play tight until the money. And I had to show a lot of restraint to not 3-bet 10-5 offsuit from the big blind against a late open that I thought was light. I'm always 3-betting this if I have chips. But no, I don't have, a lot of chips. And I still was upset from paying off the gunslinger. If I asked someone like Tom, I think he'd say it's standard that the king 10 offsuit hand, like, yeah, you got to call the button after two people call. And yeah, betting the flop is good with your image. And checking back the turn is good at this stage of the tournament. And you have to call the bomb on the river. Because that's like GTO shit. But like, I think, when the guy bets that much in the river, I should fold. I'm trying to like get my head right. And I just wrote start now. Like, it doesn't matter if you feel like you've made some bad plays or bad call. You got owned. Even though I probably didn't get owned, it felt like I did. Start now. That's like the thing in life. I'm good at that in like sports. Like if we're golfing and like I fuck up a hole, next hole I can just turn the page. I just need to do that in this tournament. And I wrote no spew unless laser read. So I have to tell myself to not spew. I open ace queen offsuit and chip jet 3-bets pretty large. And the only hand I've seen him play is aces. And he's in position and I just fold. And then I text Tom and I said, what do I do there? This guy's only showed aces. And he said, you obviously peel. So I said, damn it. So then I had to fold ace-5 offsuit. And then I defend 7-6 of hearts. Multi-away from the big blind. It comes ace-queen-7. The pre-flop raiser bets. I think he has a gutter. I call with the 7. I have no backdoor flush draw. The turn's an X. I check, he checks, and I'm just thinking no 10, jack, or king, and the river's a king. And I'm not going to try and bluff this guy off king jack here. I don't know anything about him. It's too dicey. I just check, and he says turns over king jack. So just a pretty standard hand where if he misses the river, that's good. But he hit. And here's kind of a fun hand. Guy limps. I call in the small blind with 6-deuce offsuit. It's just the price is right, Bob. And chip jet checks the big blind. And it comes ace queen jack. Rainbow. I have 6-deuce offsuit, so I lead. Why? Well, certainly these guys don't have an ace. I don't think. And if they do, I'll find out. And chip calls and the other guy folds. Okay, when he calls, I think he has exactly second pair. And the turn is an 8. And now I realize I wasn't repping a lot with my bet, and this guy's probably pretty good. But you know what? An 8 makes on ace, queen, jack, 8. It makes a straight in case I bet the flop with 10-9, which I could have in the small blind. So I just kind of, posture for a half second and bet again. And he just thinks for a bit and folds. So I got one through. Good. And then I was just card dead. You have to fold pocket deuces under the gun. It's so gross. And I'm trying to play solid. I'm trying to make the money. I'm fighting myself. It's not my demons. Like, that's different. That's like when things are going well and then this force inside is like, be self-destructive. That's your demons. This is just, I want to fucking spew because spewing is awesome at the poker table, but not now. Play tight, make the money, then spew if you want. And then I wrote, fuck it, I am who I am. And this is pretty spewy and one of my favorite hands of the tournament. It's 3K, 6K. I make it 12K on the button. They all fold to me with queen 8 offsuit. Both the blinds call, chip jet and some other guy. The flop comes ace, ace, 7 with 2 spades. I have nary a spade, but I have queen 8. They check to me. I have the range advantage. I min bet and chip, jet, check raises. The other guy folds. Oh, so you're check raising me on ace, ace, 7, where I open the button and you call the small blind. Okay. We're going to have to see another card, Chip. I put in the call. The turn's a 7. Okay, unlikely you have pocket 7s. And now he bets a little bit too much. Why would you bet a lot with an ace? Sure, if you have quads, go ahead and bet. But why? Also, you could just check to me, I'm going to bet. But he's sitting next to me. And I talk about my hypersensitivity all the time. And I usually try and numb it when I'm in public. But not in this tournament. I'm playing fucking dead sober. And I don't believe you, Chip. So I'm going to call, even though, like, God, if he has an ace, this is the biggest punt. But he's just not playing an ace like this. I don't think. He's been around forever. He's a good player. What do you mean? You just call in the small blind with an ace in your hand? My button open? Not sure about that. And then ace, ace, 7, you're going to check raise? Not telling a great story there, Chip. Turn 7, and he bets a little too much and with a little too much force and a little too quickly. It's not like we're deep and he has to set up stacks going in. So I call again with the queen 8. And I'm just going to check back the river, and I don't think he'd be doing this with king high. So I'm just going to check back the river. But the river is an interesting card. It's the king of spades. So the flush comes in. And now I'm playing the board. My expensive plan to call the check raise on the flop, call the turn, and just check back the river, and think my queen high is good, that plan has been foiled by the river card. I am now playing the board. And I am not sharing this pot with Chip. And if he had a flush draw, he wins with a flush on ace, ace, 7, 7, king, 3 spades. So when he checks the river, now I have to bet. And now this shit got a lot more expensive, didn't it? So now I have to bet whatever. Just like way too much of my chip stack. But I go with my reads. Fuck it. I am who I am. And he folds quickly. So I was playing the board. So I got the best of him in that one, but I won't get the best of him in every one. Open the button, queen 8 offsuit, ace, ace, 7, 2 spades, min bet when they check, get check raised. Okay, I induce this, call, turn 7, bets. Oh, it's a little too much, a little too quickly with a little too much force. I don't think you got it, Chip. Call. I'm just going to check back the river. My queen high should be good. Oh, it's the king of spades. If you did have a flush draw, you made a flush, but you also can't call a bet because it's double prepared. And if you have just other air, I'm not sharing this pot with you. And now I got to bet like too much of my stack, but I did, and I won. Okay. Then in the old days, when you run a play, then you get rewarded. Well, I get rewarded with 7 deuce offsuit. When you get old, that's how they reward you. And then 6-3 suited, it ain't the time. I got to fold it. But I'm feeling better. I was feeling like shit after the other table, after I felt like the gunslinger got the best of me. And of course, he fucking had jacks against king 10 on jack 10, 10, 2 hearts. And he won whatever. He won half pot on the flop and almost pot on the river after checking the turn. That's not owning me, but it felt like it because I want to play perfect. If I'm going to be sober playing poker, I want to play perfectly. I don't know. But my morale's on the way back after that queen 8 offsuit. Super spew job. Ace king of spades. I raise and get 3 calls. Comes 999. I bet and the small blind calls. Turns a 5 of spades. He checks. I check. River's the deuce of spades. And he baby bets. And this was like he just bet like 1 big blind into like several. And I called. And he had pocket 7s. Of course, he has pocket 7s. I don't know the best way to play this. I think 999. I think you just have to take your medicine and play it just like this. You know you're going to lose, but you often make calls when you think you're going to lose because you're getting pot odds. I don't think it's a barrel like any big card like a jack, anything like that on the turn I could barrel. But a 5 is a check back. And then the 2, just like, if he bets normal fold, if he bets tiny call, I don't know. Maybe raise river. Like, that's the thing. Like, if I have a pocket pair, I'm always getting paid here, so I can't also get a bluff through. And, I don't know this guy well enough. Chip opens under the gun, folds back to me in the big blind. I defend with 10-9 offsuit. It comes 8 deuce 3. I check fold to a bet. He was kind of a nuisance on my left. A nice guy, but a nuisance. And I don't know if I played with him before. I think I played with his wife. He has kind of this hot wife, I think. And, back in the day. And he was a nice guy at the table, but kind of one of the tougher players I played against, I think. I didn't see a lot of his hands. I opened 6-4 hearts after folding for a while, and he 3-bets me again on my direct left. And Tom said I had to peel with the ace-queen, so I felt like I had to peel with the 6-4 hearts. I flopped nothing and folded. 7 deuce offsuit, fold. Ace-3 suited, open, someone jams, fold. Pocket eights, I open, get 2 calls. I flop a set. I bet the flop. They both call. Turn is not a break. It's a pocket eights should be the nuts, but a lot of draws are available, so I size up and they both fold. And that's tournament poker. You don't gamble with your sets. And then I own the masked man with ace jack. I opened, he called, and it came king jack X. I bet small. Turn king, I bet small. River X, I bet moderate to make it look like a bluff. And he snap called, and ace jack was good. And I know that's a cash play in a tournament. Normally you don't go for 3 streets with second pair, but I don't care. Play how I want to play. We're 6 away from the money. I need to chill. I was listening to Lil Baby. I was listening to music. I got a fucking backpack, wearing a baseball hat, low. I do not have sunglasses on. I'm a fucking grinder. I got AirPods in. I was listening to Lil Baby. I need to chill. So I put on Camila Cabello. I'm not ashamed to admit it. And this is a debatable hand, literally. We're 5 away from the money. And I want to make the money. But so does everyone else. And the big blind 6K, I opened to 12K. And it folds to the masked man in the big blind, who looks up at the TV deliberately or with a purpose beyond just seeing how far we are away from the money. He just keeps looking up. It's a Hollywood job. He's looking up at the TV, that tells you average stack, how many away from the money, the shit, how much time left on the level. He looks up at it like 4 or 5 times, and then he goes all in for 195K. And there's zero stress on this guy. He's directly across from me. And I have pocket jacks, and I know right away I'm folding. And I just lift it up so Chip can see, because I kind of want his input. And I fold, and the masked man says, "What'd you fold?" I said, "Jacks." I said, "No, you didn't." And Chip said, "Yeah, I did." And I text Tom that, and he's like, "Well, obviously snap call." I don't know. I don't think so. This guy showed no aggression. The money's about to hit. He was baby bet aggression. And he's, it's 6, it's a 30-some big blind. Is he really punting it off 5 away from the money? No. He's trying to trick me. He's got kings or aces. And then he kept wanting to talk about it. And he said, "Oh, you have to call there." Yeah, I had. He said, "What if I do actually have kings?" I was like, "Who said kings?" It's like you're a cop, and the guy who murdered said, like, "What if I did hide the gun in the planner?" I didn't say that shit. What if I did have kings? So I think he had kings, but then he went to no, I had ace king, I had ace 3. He settled on ace 3 offsuit, and he kept talking about it, and I was just laughing. And Chip was like, "Yeah, I think this guy you have to call." He was showing me on his phone the guy's profile. He's like some mad scientist or whatever. But then when he said ace 3 offsuit, then Chip was like, "I don't know about that. I don't know if he's jamming that." And then Chip paid him off later, and the guy had it. And anyways, moving on. It doesn't matter. We're 4 away from the money now, and I'm not, super short like I would have been had I lost that pot, called and lost. I defend with ace-5. It comes jack-8-4. Guy bets. I'm not super sold on his hand. I am just calling here. The turn's a jack, and I bet for a couple reasons. One, I just want to deny equity, and two, against king highs and queen highs, and even if he has a better ace, he's gonna fold. And two, like I can, if he tells me with his body language that he doesn't love it legitimately and calls, then I can bet the river and take it down. And the money's about to hit, so he doesn't want to fuck around either. And then I get turned after making a good call on the flop, and I fold, and I get to see it. And I spew off a little bit, and then the money hits. And then I lose a big pot right after the money hits. I had ace-6. I overcalled. It came 9-9-8, checked around. So someone opened late, small blind called, I called, and the turn was a 5, and the small blind led 25, and I call with ace-6. There's two flush draws out there. The other guy folded, and the river is a 10, and 9-9-8-5, river's 10. I bet 50, and the guy who bet called me with 4s. It was an amazing call. And so I just dusted off 100K right there. And I felt like it made a lot of sense. Like, yeah, I would value bet a 10 there, of course. And 10s make sense for straights, and I could have even better. And I just was surprised he called 4s. Felt like a punt. Probably felt more like a punt than it was. And then when it got to me in the small blind, I raised with ace-9 offsuit. Chip called. It came queen jack X. I just bet once. He called, and I folded the turn. I think when I said I didn't play well blind versus blind, it was mostly against him. He was the one tough player I had on my direct left, and I think I should just be limping almost every time I'm coming in from the small blind and mix in a lot of limp re-raises. So that's just a note for myself. Call with 8-5 suited. I'm getting short now, and I'm not going to just send it in and leave it up to the dealers. I'm going to try and get in there and get reads, and I flop nothing. And not short yet, but shorter. And then blind versus blind, I raise again with ace-5 offsuit, and chip calls. And so this is just better as a limp against a guy who's not folding. It's a limp, and if he raises, I can call. I can mix in some limp re-raises. But anyways, it comes queen jack 3 all clubs. I have ace-5 with the ace of clubs. So I flop the nut flush draw. I check. He bets. I call. Turns a 4. Now I have a straight draw and the nut flush draw. I check. He bets 70. Call. And the river's an ace. I check, and he checks, and he has queen 4. So he's calling my raise with queen 4. He's coolering. I'm missing when it matters. And now it's time to go to dinner. I have 199K. And the big blind is 10. So 19 bigs. That's okay. I can't find anywhere to eat. I see Rampage and, give him a fist bump. I don't really want to talk to anyone. I just don't, I made it to the money, but fuck, it's 19 big blinds. Now I'm at the mercy of the dealers, and I just haven't run hot at the mercy of the dealers. In tournaments, for sure. I've made runs, but it's all like this, manufacture, maybe run hot early. And then when it gets down to the dealer decides, I've always gotten fucked, and I'm not feeling good about it. But I was feeling good I saw both my buddy and my buddy's ex-girlfriend, and neither believed me that I was in the seniors event. They still don't believe me. So that felt good. They're saying I was too young. Thought I was just trolling. And I troll a lot, but I wasn't trolling. I was playing the seniors high roller. So I'm back to 19 bigs, and it folds to the small blind who shoves. I look down at 8-6 suited, got a fold. Now I finally make the adjustment and limp queen 7 offsuit, blind versus blind, and chip checks. And it comes queen 7 deuce with 2 hearts. And I check, he bets, I just go ahead and raise. I'm not going to get fancy with these stacks. Let's play for it now or fold, I don't care. He folded quickly. Then I raised with jack 10, and someone defended, and I bet on king deuce 3 and took it. And then I defended my big blind with 9-6 of clubs. And it came ace, 9-8 with 2 clubs. I flopped so many combo draws. I don't think I made any of them. I flopped some flushes. And I know I rivered a flush that I turned the draw. But I have so many combos, and I bricked all of them in this tournament. I'm not complaining because I ran good in other ways, many other ways. But I just call. I just call because I know I'm against the ace, and it's a fucking rich old guy who's not folding an ace. And the turn's a king. I call 50K. I just know I don't have fold equity in the river bricks, and I lose to ace 5. Okay. I had a lot of outs, and I didn't get there. And then I folds me in the small blind. I limp in with 7 deuce suited and chip raises. I fold 9-8 of clubs. I got 13 big blinds. And then I got a walk. That was nice. Deuce 3 offsuit. Jack 10 offsuit. Have to fold. I get ace queen offsuit. All in. I take the blinds. And here's my actual best play of the tournament. So I have 12 big blinds or 13 big blinds. And I defend an open with a late open with Jack 9 offsuit. I don't know if you're supposed to jam here or fold. I'm not doing either of those things. I'm calling and playing poker. And that's old school, and it probably sounds fishy. I don't give a fuck. I'm sober. I'm locked in. And it comes queen jack 4 with 2 spades. And I check, and the guy continuation bets. And I'm thinking, now do I send it in? I started with 13 bigs. I don't know. I don't think this guy is necessarily weak. I don't think he's necessarily strong. I'm gonna call and reevaluate. I'm putting in a chunk of my small stack. I don't care. And the turn is a brick, like a red deuce, queen jack 4, 2 spades, red deuce. I have jack 9 so I check, and he puts me all in for 100K. And the way I played this hand, I think without any reads, you have to call it off. I think he just has a fucking queen. Something deep down tells me he has a queen. He has a fucking queen. I fold. And he shows me a queen. And, it's, to someone who isn't hypersensitive, probably all sounds like white magic bullshit. But I I'm a reader. And, that's what storytellers are, is they're observers and whatever. And that was fucking sick fold. That's a sick fucking fold. You defend, with Jack 9 offsuit, you maybe started the hand with 13 bigs. Now you got 11. Or maybe I had 15. So now I got 13. And then you call the continuation bet. Now you have 10. And then he put you all in on the turn. And, there's draws out there, of course. And he could just have ace high, whatever. But folding second pair there was fucking legit. And now I have, 10 bigs. Someone opens. I jam jack 10 suited, gets through. Okay, so now I have more than 10 bigs. And I overlimp jack 9 offsuit. And I bet on king 7-7, 2 hearts. But the masked man calls and then leads on the turn. I don't know, I probably just had it. And then a Patron comes up and gives me a Diet Mountain Dew. The Patrons are rooting for me, of course, and those are the paid members. Especially those who are backing me are rooting for me because their money hasn't been working for them in a while. It did a couple of years ago. It worked real well. I earned over 100K for the backers, but it's been stagnant. And anyways, they're rooting for me anyway, regardless. And he brings me a Diet Mountain Dew. And I just put it on the table as my lucky charm. And I shove ace 9 offsuit and get it through. And then I over-defend 10-3 of clubs. Yeah, I want to see flops even when I have 12 big blinds. Nothing. So I have 100K exactly on the button. And I got this. I got pocket sixes. And I know it's go time. It's 10 bigs. It's exactly 10 bigs. Unless something crazy happens in front of me, it's going in with these sixes. Well, someone opens and someone calls, and it's almost like slow motion. I can hear Mike Matisow on the table behind me telling someone a sports bad beat story. And the NBA final game is on. I don't have money on it, but I'm rooting for the Pacers, and Matt Turin's missing key free throws at the end of game 5, maybe. And I'm all in, and the guy who opened tanks for a while and doesn't jam. I thought for sure he would jam, get the other guy out, and I would just be heads up and hopefully he could win a flip. He calls and the other guy calls. So we don't turn over hands. They still have chips behind. So it's a 3-way all in. And I'm thinking like, oh, God, I hear Mike Madison's bad beat story. He mushed me on day 1. This guy's missing free throws. That feels mushy. But I'm just looking at this lucky Diet Mountain Dew from a Patron and like, maybe I'll be okay. The flop comes out 8-6-4 with 2 diamonds. I flop middle set. Oh my God. In the big spot, I flopped well. They both check. Turn 4. It's over. I got a boat. They both check. And a new guy sat down, and when that 4 came, he looked at me and I winked at him. I'm back in action. I went from 10 bigs to over 30 just like that. And that's why you're fine in a tournament when you get, lower. Well, I mean, yeah, that's why if you're going to win that, like I'm 40% there maybe, and I won it. And I was up against Queen Jack suited and pocket 5s. I had pocket 6s. So I can't tell you how good that felt. And I was a big blind, and the small blind limped in, and I just checked with 4 deuce offsuit, and came queen 7-4. He checked, I min bet and took it. Then I raised the button with queen 10 offsuit and chip 3-bet pretty large from the small blind. I just folded. I folded queen 10 offsuit to an open. And then here is an important hand. So we already hit the money. There are 83 players left in the tournament. I think at 71 there's a pay jump. So we're not that close to a pay jump. But I am middle position, and I look down at ace king offsuit. And I have 307K in chips, and it's 612. So I make it 24,000. This guy calls, and the masked man is now drunk on run good. He was playing very passive until the money hit. Well, he did make that big quote-unquote move against me, but we never saw his hand. But Chip doubled him up. Chip might have thought he was, more capable than he is. And he's just been running hot ever since. And he's kind of drunk on run good. So I open to 24. This guy calls, and he's on the button, and he makes it 125. And it folds around to me, and I'm all in for 307. And the guy who called my open folds, and now the masked man goes in the tank on the button. And I know because of the tournament, I should probably be rooting for fold, but I think he's going to be dominated a lot. And I was just like, am I rooting for fold or call? I'm just thinking in my head. And I'm just sitting there. He finally calls and turns over pocket 6s, which is a massive overplay. He's lucky to be up against a flip. And I'm, in a way, unlucky to be up against a flip with ace king. I could be dominating. But whatever. It's a flip, and there's 676,000 in there. I have ace king. He has 6s that he almost folded. 83 players left. If I win this, I have a top 15 stack. Okay. I guess that's why you don't give up. And I just look at this Diet Mountain Dew, and I'm just thinking, let's go. Let's win this flip too. It's possible to win 2 in a row. And if I do, well, anything can happen. The table's fucked. Don't give me a lot of chips. Just don't do it. So the flop comes out 10-4-5. And my first thought, because my brain's just going 1,000 miles per hour when I'm playing poker. So I don't have a backdoor wheel draw because he's got the 6s. Okay, so I need an ace or king. And the turn is a 7. Okay, he's opening. It doesn't matter. I still need an ace or a king. And because I won that last flip, which was, I was even worse than a flip, was 6s against queen, jack suited and 5s, maybe 40%. And it was my first time all in and called. In not just this tournament, so many tournaments. Every tournament I play, the first time I'm all in and called, I have the best hand and I lose. It's true. Go back in the old school episodes of Sessions. 2019 World Series of Poker main event. I was never all in and called until day 5 or 6. I don't remember which day. 5 maybe. I was finally all in and called. Day 5 or 6, whatever. Ace queen offsuit against ace jack. Boom. Dead. And the flop was nothing in terms of jack. And because my first time all in and called was the 6s against queen, jack suited and 5s, and I won, and it was easy. Like the sweat, there was no sweat. I flopped a set and turned a boat, and no one bet. Like, I didn't feel cursed. And yeah, I only got 6 outs with 1 card to come. But that's the same equity the wealthy tilter had on day 1 when the money went in, when he had queen, jack suited against my kings. And he won. So it's possible. So the board is 10-5-4-7. I have ace king, the masked man who lied about jamming and me making a fucking amazing fold with jacks earlier, has 6s that he just, he's just drunk on run good and overplaying shit now. But 10-4-5-7, and the river is a 9. Okay. So in terms of payouts, that 6-6 hand where I flopped the set, it felt so good. Or I got that lucky Diet Mountain Dew. I got these people supporting me. That hand, money-wise, didn't matter. I got them in cash. But it did matter because I just felt way less cursed after that. And that's a real thing. Play poker and gamble long enough. Run bad for long enough. And that's also a real thing. I've been talking about a lot in this podcast. People can accept that there are sun runners. They cannot accept yet that there are people who just run bad for a very, very, very long time. And anyways, because it didn't matter that I won that 6. I get the same money, instead of getting 95th place, I get 83rd or whatever. Who cares? Or 91, 83, whatever it was. It did matter to me. It felt like I can win the big flip. And it's good to just know that. Anyways, I grabbed my backpack off my chair. Some guy from, World Series Poker came over and told me, go cash out at the Paris. And so I started walking to the Paris, and I checked my phone, and it was about 9 p.m. on Friday the 13th of June. You want to know what happens next? You know where to go. Patreon.com/DGAF poker player. You should go there anyways if you just want to get the free drops, because once you sign up as a free member, you can get RSS feed and paste it in regular podcast players if you're listening to this on YouTube right now. But yeah, if you want to get the story of what happens next, in the form of a lead up, $4.22 a month. All right, check the goals real quick. 50-50 tilt. Let's see. I have, after week 24, we are at 11 and 13. I did not tilt in the cash game. I played in Vegas. I mean, I tilted my normal grizzled vet self, but I didn't go to that dark place. And I certainly didn't tilt in this tournament. I didn't go to that dark place. So 11 and 13, no makeup. Fuck. I started $61,810 in makeup. I'm $82,900 in makeup at this point. It's not going my way. And the last goal, 230. I want to weigh 230 or less by the end of the year. I started 247.3. Last time was 224.1. This time was 220.6. So That's going in the right direction, and we're almost halfway through the year. I got a lot more work to do. Thanks for listening. Peace.